question about Saturday? Good afternoon. So it's our Tuesday. We have a short time here and talk about one very single element for 2025 because a lot of folks are very confused with 2025. The form W-2 didn't change, so folks are wondering what happened to tips, and I thought we got this rule coming up and what happened to it. So let's just kind of comb it through. So I'll give you your responsibility as an employee, and then I also let the bosses know what their responsibility is. So let's get going. With our for every of our webinar, in the very beginning, I spent 1 minute to just talk about Community CPA. So communitycpa.com, this is our website. When you come to our website, you will see things, and we change our headers all the time and give you the newest news in our area. On top of our website, you will actually see a button called Onboard with Us. This is really a place where you can upload your information, even if you feel like you want to be our client at midnight. Obviously, we don't have people to pick up your calls if you call at that time, but you could upload everything you want to ask, and then someone will talk to you next day. And our office is an office that opens 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, from 8:30 to 5:30 every single day, 6 days a week. So you always should be able to get a hold of a real voice and real person. So in our firm, and we are proud to tell you that we don't have dropped calls, which means that if you called us, and you ring, someone pick it up. So that is how our promise goes in terms of servicing you. And here is our firm's highlight. We highlight ourselves by numbers. We have more than 12,000 clients. We have 48 professionals and 29 years of service in the community. So that kind of give you an idea. And then we have 12 number of languages are spoken by all of our people. You can imagine that we are truly a united nation of a CPA firm, right? And we love different languages. When I interview folks coming to our firm to work, if they speak another language, even if their English is moderate, of course you have to speak English, that's the main language, but we love that quality. We don't take that as your liability, is your asset when you speak another language. And this is our YouTube channel. Folks, do you know how to find us on YouTube? You go onto youtube.com and you put in Community CPA. Okay, just like that. And, just Community CPA, no plurals, just Community CPA. Then you will see all of us in here. You can look at our videos, look at our live stream. So that's, we have so much information here. And I bet you that if you come in, you will be impressed with how much effort we put in on YouTube channel to educate our folks. And I know there's a lot of people who probably will not come to seek service from us, but they still have questions. So this is the place that you can get your question answered. You don't have to come to our firm and pay money and get question answered. You can do it yourself using our channel. All right, so these are the 2 books I wrote, and I welcome you to go to Amazon. And if you purchase these books, and every dollar you paid for, it goes to a nonprofit organization called the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Summit. It is a 501c3 organization. 18-some years ago, I and 2 other immigrant business owners come together and got that initiated. Now it has life of its own and really supporting immigrant entrepreneurs across the country. So I welcome you to check out on that website is www.iesusa.org. All right. Now, no disclaimer, no responsibility disclaimer. Yes, disclaimer. So this is just to say that, you can get a lot of knowledge from the internet, and Google really does a very good job. If you have questions, you ask Google, and Google does. And actually, their stock went up, so I think they're doing a good job. That's why their stock went up. And with that said, and I want you to use internet knowledge carefully, and you vet it through, and don't just believe whatever you see on print is authoritative. It's not true. Okay? Things can come in the very pretty format, but they're wrong. So make sure that you read through it. And if you don't know, ask your children who grow up in US and speak good English, read good English. They can even tell you, right? Or you can ask Google and to get that done. Of course, in our firm, we don't use Google to do our professional side of learning. We have our own learning tools and to teach all of our staff how to, elevate their professional levels. Now, let's go ahead. Get an overview of new tips. Okay, from IRS database, it is estimated that 6 million workers are reporting tips regularly. For tax year 2025 to 2028, eligible employee may deduct up to $25,000 of qualified cash tips per year, which phrase out if you make too much money and over $150,000 as a single filer or $300,000 as a joint filer. Okay, so if you make a W-2 over $150,000, then this tips thing doesn't apply to you. The deduction we're talking about is available. It doesn't matter you're doing itemized or not, so it is available to you. To qualify the tips deduction we're talking about here, the $25,000. So what I'm saying is, let's say you made $25,000 income, but your tips is also $25,000. Then because your total income is less than $150,000 as a single, you actually pay no taxes. Otherwise, you would end up paying taxes. Okay? You would end up paying some taxes, but this is completely exempted. So this is what we call the tip deduction. To qualify, you must be properly reporting tips and have a social security number. This is a catcher. A lot of folks who works in that industry, maybe they don't have a social security number, they have a temporary number or IT number, and that doesn't give you that deduction at all. And you must also work in a job that officially recognized by IRS as a tipped occupation. On IRS.gov website, if you just type in and the tips, eligible business to claim tips deduction, they give you a list of them. So I actually have a link in here. I'll see whether I can click it and then come back to you. And IRS oversees these regulations. Okay, this is the IRS's job. So during the government shutdown, and nobody is, federal government don't work anymore. So all of these implementation would not be progressing just because the government was shut down. And it shut down for so long, right? But still, Epstein files still came out. Darn it. I just thought that if they shut down, people will forget about it. But no, they didn't. Oh, that's so sad. I'm just like bombarded with it. Anyway, life is fun, right? Life is so amazing to some people. And especially, I think Green will have such a good time. And after resigning, and God knows there are going to be a bunch of resigning. And my goodness, what's going to happen to Johnson's job? And I'm just wondering. Anyway, employee requirements for eligibility. This is like, if you want to do the tips deduction, you need to be eligible. So how are you eligible? You must work in an occupation that customarily and regularly receive tips, right? So I know we don't get tips, okay? We do such a good tax filing work, but clients don't write us a tip because we are not customarily a business that regularly receive tips. But you could name a couple of businesses in your life experience. You know that you kind of need to give tips when you finish doing what you do, right? And you did your haircut, you got your nail painted, or you were eating at the restaurant. And boy, some of the restaurants even print out the tips for you, so you don't even have to calculate. You just choose, don't accidentally choose the wrong one, folks, and that could happen. So, those are the tips. Those are the tips qualifies for the deduction we're talking about. The job must have been considered a tipped occupation on or before December 31st, 2024. So this whole OBBBA, this one big beautiful bill, they came in on July 4th, right? So it covers backlog to January the 1st, 2025. You know, a lot better than those bonus depreciation. They started date is January the 20th, 2025, okay? So this one is starting from January the 1st. At least you don't have to get confused of how to calculate that 20 days. So with that, the occupation must be reported using Treasury Occupation Code on Form W-2 or Form 1099. So this year, 2025, is a transition year. This year, there is no place for you to put the code. So, but 2026, the form is there. You have to put in the code. And that code is available on IRS website. I'll show you the link. Employee in specific service trades and the businesses are not eligible. They give example of a consulting, law office, accounting office, healthcare. Yeah, we don't give tips to doctors, even though they're so nice to us, right? They're trying to help us. We don't give them tips. So they don't qualify. Or even if they do qualify, you know, their W-2 going to be over 150,000. It's wasted. So it's not going to work. Married taxpayers. Listen to this. If you are married taxpayers, you have to file jointly to get that credit. So you say that, oh, we're married, file jointly, and both of us has tips. And then, sorry, if you're going to put married file separately on your tax form, that tips deduction just not going to show up. Okay, especially if you use TurboTax. TurboTax is just going to disappear for you, and then you are wondering why you didn't get that. Oh, because you are filing married file separately. So just keep that in mind. So two things, right? Number one is if you're married, you have to file married jointly to get tip deduction. Number two, you cannot make too much money as a single under 150,000, as a married file jointly, and under 300,000. Then the last, but not the least, you must have a Social Security number. So those are the key things as a employee. You want to claim the deduction, and you have to fulfill those ones. See right here, this is an IRS list of occupants. I'm going to try to click it. I'm going to risk. And if I come back really bad and Grace is here, she's going to save me. So I'm going to click. So, all right, you see, this is the occupation. This is the occupation number the IRS needed. And then they tell you what are the customarily and the regularly received tips, and there's bartenders and the waiters and the staff, like that, right? So that makes sense to you. All right. So now how do I go back? Okay, Grace, save me. You know, a lot of time you just see me, but I'm actually working with Grace almost every webinars I'm here, and she's actually right in front of me to make sure that I don't screw up, which I regularly screw up. So, all right. So proper tips reporting. Employee responsibilities. So we want to do the deduction, and you must know that you really need to report that based on your W-2, based on your 1099. You see one thing here, 1099, the contractors, and you could have a amount of 1099 that designated to be tips, right? So if, let's say, W-2 didn't have it, but you know you have it, you need to report, then you need to use the form 4137. So what this form does is when you put in the number of the tips that was not reported on W-2, but you want to report that income, and when you put that in, the system will calculate Social Security Medicare on that for you. So, you know, tips is actually paid Social Security Medicare taxes already. So tips is not totally non-taxable. Social Security Medicare already applied to it. You are just non-taxable for income tax purposes, right? So you must report, as an employee, you should report it says must. This is IRS talking. IRS is a lot more, stern, right? They're like, you must do that. I say that you should. You should report monthly tip income to your boss by the 10th of the following month. You see, the IRS even have a date for you. 10th, before that, right? The tax return must include a valid social security number. Again, they are trying to tell you that IT number doesn't work, so you cannot get that. Only voluntary and customer determined tips are qualified for tips deduction. You know how sometimes if you have a group of 20, the restaurant already charge you gratitude, so that is not customer determined amount. It is required by the restaurant. As soon as it is not voluntary and you lose the color of tip, that can be used for income deduction. So make sure that you clearly understand tips amount you can deduct from your income are the only tips that voluntarily paid by your customer to you. All right. Of course, everything we do in life is organizing that documentation. You want to maintain your personal record at all time because, your boss may be not doing a good job in tracking your tips. You should know it, right? So keep a log with the date and amount and the type of tips that you received. So making sure that you verify that with the W-2 at the end of the year you are getting from your boss. Make sure you retain those documentation for the purposes of being audited. If you got audited and you need that, right? So transition rules for 2025. The year 2025 is considered transition year by IRS. Form W-2 1099 and 941, they remain unchanged for 2025. I want to say that if we didn't have the government shutdown, and if we didn't have Epstein files going on, I am so sure IRS would have already got it done because this rule came out in July. Come on, there's enough time to get it updated, but it didn't. So now we don't have the updated form. We use the old form. Employer contribution, standard tip reporting, and withholding procedures is all follow the old form. Employers are not yet required to break out qualified tips separately and list Treasury occupation codes. So that thing I show you from IRS website, the employers are not required to do that yet. And the penalty relief applies if qualified tips occupation codes are not separated, as long as aggregated tips are included. So basically what it says is if you, as an employer and what you have, if you didn't separate them, fine. If you won't be penalized. It's a transition year. And so for tips received before January the 1st, 2026, okay, the IRS allows the reasonable estimate method for determine qualified tip amount. So look at that. So they use the language of reasonable estimate methods. So reasonable is very subjective. In IRS world, there's a lot of that. For example, they say that your business expense is reasonable and necessary. And then they have this whole details about the interpretation of reasonable and necessary. So reasonable, subjective. So a lot of times practitioners, people like us, and we would be looking at whether there's a court cases already come out fighting this particular issue and citing the reasonableness of the estimate is not reasonable, why not reasonable. So those are the time when we looking at the implementation of a rule. That's what the practitioner would go by. Would go by what it is out there being debated and being already discussed, and the best practice has already been recommended by the trade authority, authoritative groups like AICPA and people like that. Okay. Apologize for my voice. I'm still lingering with the code a little bit, but that just gives you a touch of human, right? when people are looking for excuses, it's like, aren't you happy that I have a rusty voice that give you a real sense that I'm a real human, not a robot? Isn't that crazy? That's what White House is doing. So I'm just like learning from the smart people every day, actually. Employee responsibility. This is something we talked about the employee side of things, right? So now I'm talking about the bosses. As a boss, as a business owner, and you need to continue to report total tips on Form W-2 and 1099, and withhold and pay Social Security Medicare taxes on reported tips. You want to make sure that you are responsible for paying the share of FICA taxes on all reported tips. Okay, the new tax deduction does not eliminate payroll tax requirement. That new tax deduction is only for your employee, not for you, bosses, because they don't have to pay income tax on their tips income. That has little to do with you. But maybe what can happen to your end is that employees are more willing to tell you on the 10th of following month what they made last month on tips that you otherwise don't know. But when they are more willing to report to you, then you include that in their W-2 and making sure you pay Social Security Medicare. So it is all about making sure that the number they report, employee report, and the number you report are the same. Well, optional in 2025, employers should begin identifying which job roles are tipped positions within your organization, right? Establishing a method to track tip income by employee, reviewing payroll system capabilities for new fields in 2026, not 2025, because the field is not ready. 2026 is ready. Employers should also communicate with their payroll provider, HR, and accounting department and management about these changes. So it is a lot, it's a lot things you need to worry, business owner, right? Employer requirement 2026 and beyond. This is the boss's job. We are going into 2026, folks, right? We're already the turkey time in November, and the holiday season comes through. Time just fly by. 2026 is there. I want you to focus on now to make sure your 2026 is going to have the right number going into right bucket. And a lot of you are using payroll service people are using payroll system that provided by, say, ADP and Paychecks, people like that. They should already have those available field for you. But your challenge is to make sure you know how to use it. Because if you don't, even if they have the field, you would put it wrong. So those are the depot kind of payroll services. It's really hard to find someone can sit down with you, talk to you, and care about your little account, because you're such a little account compared to what they have, so they may not even have a human for you. And in a couple of years, you will get a robot. But right now, the humans are not available. And the only human available you may find is in the places like where community CPA is at. We don't use robot. We use humans. We work with humans, right? Starting in 2026, new report field become mandatory. That means you can't get away from it. And you, the bosses, you must separately report qualified cash tips in box 12 using the code, Treasury Code, TP, on Form W-2. The employee's Treasury Tips Occupation Code in box 14B. Okay, so there is 2 boxes that is new for the bosses, and you want to make sure you are doing it right. The Treasury Occupation Code must match to IRS approved list, reflect the employee's actual job function. You need to be serious about that, because if the employee is the restaurant manager, they're not tipped employee, and they should not have these field on their paycheck, right? Additional IRS regulation instruction is coming. IRS is catching up on the time they took 45 days vacation, non-paid vacation, so they catch up. Actually, I think they're catching up pretty well. I actually made a call to IRS this morning. I was very impressed with the speed, with the thoroughly and very thorough and get it done. So I spent 20 minutes, I resolved something. So it was, I was quite impressed because I was thinking people coming back from, job, they lost job for 40 some days and now they come back, they must be so buried and they can't breathe. So when you call them, they're cranky, but it was not that case for me today. So I'm grateful, just maybe I'm just lucky. Here. This is 2025 W-2. You see, it is an old W-2. Okay, no difference. But I want to point out one thing to you. Did you notice that number 8, allocated tips, right? What is that one for? That one is for you to put in the tips that your employer did not report for you. Okay, you may say that, Ying, I don't understand why you say that, because who is going to report income that nobody even know? Well, there's a lot of reason why people want to report income. And you don't want to look dirt poor, and then you report income. And you want to sponsor your loved one coming to U.S. to live with you, you report income. And you want to, give your kids better opportunities, and you report income. So those are so many reasons. So there is possibility that you didn't report your additional tips on the 10th of the following month, and then at the end of the year, you go like, oh yeah, I have about $10,000 actual tips I never reported, my employer didn't know. You can come over here, and you don't have to change your W-2. What you need to do is, that 10,000 should really go there, and then in your form, you will report that. So I will show you the instruction right here. So the number 8, this amount is not included in the box 1357. And for information on how to report tips on your tax return, see instruction. So you will file the form 4137 for that. Okay, so if your W-2, if your boss is working on the W-2 and you want the $10,000 that you did not give to your boss to be on your W-2 so it's become official, you can talk to your bosses, have them put that in there. Then when you file your tax return, when you fill up all your cells on TurboTax, and they actually, if you put a number on the cell number 8, it will bring up the form 4137 for you. Then you can continue getting that done. Okay, so that is 2025, folks. Nothing new, and just to reinforce with you on some tips that you did not report to your boss, but now need to be on your W-2. This is the screen for 2026 W-2. You don't need it, you don't use it until the end of 2026, right? Your boss will need that at the end of 2026. But you can already see there's changes, which I highlighted here. And the 12A, then you will see a long list of things. There's a TP. Okay, TP stands for these tips payment. So that TP amount need to be in there. Then you also have to give a 14B, that code we were looking at earlier. So you see, now this thing is getting used. And imagine if you are working in the restaurant and now you know how much trouble your boss has to go through to get everybody properly reported. So life is not easy. Nah. All right, W-2 instruction in here, TP, total amount of cash tip reported to employer. The employer is not a specified service, trade, or business. Use this amount in determining the deduction for qualified tips on Schedule 1A form with 1040. All right, so just know that these are the things and you will come across when you cross the bridge to 2026. But for 2025, everything looks just normal. And then you have January to July tips that you didn't even know you're supposed to put together, and remember, allow you to do reasonable estimate. So it is a transition year, folks, and so don't get too stressed out and don't have a panic attack, okay? I just had a meeting. Someone was telling me that she had a panic attack sitting in the car for half an hour, and I feel sorry for those kind of things, could happen to anybody. All right. So employer documentation and tracking. So this is the boss's work, and you need to maintain detailed record of all employees' tips, time, amount, and tips paid. Employee occupation changes throughout the year. You need to track employee who change roles to ensure the accurate reporting, right? Tips may need to be separated by role. Eligibility could change mid-year, of course. So strong documentation protects the employer in IRS audit, wage dispute, and tip accuracy verification. I almost say that if you are in business, you should budget your payroll services as part of your necessary expense. Don't try to handle payroll yourself. It's just not worth it. Not worth it is not because you're not smart enough to do it. It is because it's not worth of your time. There's a lot of new compliance and a lot of processes. And if you have someone doing your payroll, but they're handling another 100 of clients, so are much more efficient, and the data information is much more updated, and they are into that service, right? They learn everything related to payroll. But for you, you're running your operation at the same time you do payroll. I have a lot to say about that. I felt like in business, we also have to learn how to delegate. It's so easy to say, right? It's hard to delegate because you just don't want to let that go. It's like a baby with a lollipop. It's just too good to give it up. But the thing is, you cannot step out of what you are doing if you are bombarded with those minuscule tasks. So you want that to be handled properly, look for professionals. I am not saying that you have to go to community CPA to get payroll done. Of course we do that, but you can go to all the other big outlets to get that done. If you don't like them, they're too much a 1-800 number then you can look for local CPA firm, local bookkeepers to help you, right? So you really want to make sure that payroll is so sensitive. It's related to every employee you have. Anybody could cause trouble for you if you don't handle this part properly. So just make sure you look for the best to help you and really get yourself out of there so you can do other things. All right? Ongoing compliance and obligation, that's the biggest thing. And we, at our firm, we actually offer a payroll compliance service just because we have some clients coming to us. My goodness, their payroll in such a disastrous situation. If they get audited, it will no going back. So what we want to do is we want to help you to be in compliance and setting up all these procedures, processes for you so you can run your business on the payroll side. You absolutely can sleep and relax and not to worry about some, eyes person without ID and the sunglasses and the face mask and, coming to snatch you up, saying that you are not doing payroll compliance right. No, they don't really, they're sort of related to payroll, but they don't come to just to do payroll compliance. Payroll compliance side is more IRS and also Department of Labor and the state workforce or unemployment insurance are the people who care about payroll and audit the payroll the most. So, after all, what I'm trying to just say to you is that to make sure that you're doing all your payroll run properly and you update your knowledge and you are being compliant. It is really not that hard to be in compliance from get-go, but it is very hard when you are not in compliance and you knew it and you're just trying to close your eyes and get by one day at a time. Obviously, if the business is not something you want to continue, tomorrow you are ready to trash it, I understand you don't want to do anything. But if you really have the ambition to run a business and last long, to in the future to either pass that on to your children or even selling it, right? You still need to have the fundamental structure be right before you can really go for growth of your business. So, that's kind of, I kind of wrote that in my second book, like Appointment with Ying at 10 a.m., because that one is growing business. When you grow business, there's a lot of expenses and money you are going to spend, which you never really spent before. You never paid somebody to compliance review your payroll before, but those are the things you would do because that will help you to grow. All right. Action steps for employers. Review current tip reporting practice. Review that right now because 2026 come around is mandatory. So make sure you do that. Identify tips position within the organization. Know, which one is having what positions. Begin categorize employees by tips occupation. Work with payroll providers to prepare for the confirmation to confirm 2026 readiness, to make sure you are ready, and ask for box 12, box 14, how they handle that, and create a written procedure for tips tracking, and train your managers, train your payroll staff if you have internal payroll. So that is really what we want you to take from this webinar I'm talking about. A lot of things, small business owners, I'll tell you that we have so many clients. We also have clients are so successful in their way of doing business, but they have one thing in common. The one grow from small to big, being successful, are all the ones cared about compliance. I'm saying that not because I am trying to be the Miss Right. No, I give you my experience. I'm in this field for nearly 29 years, day in, day out. Imagine that I would have about 8 and 9 appointments every day from the first day I start to today. Imagine how many people I met. Imagine how many stories I heard and what kind of experiences that I gained. So what I say here is not big slogan. It's nothing about what's going on. It is all about our small business owners, how we can guide ourselves, make ourselves mentally ready to grow by making sure you are in compliance with the tips deduction if you are in that kind of industry. All right. This is the list from our website. If you go to appointment button, you will see this one. It show you the partners. So these are partners, and we have, our hierarchy in our firm is the partner, the manager, the seniors report to the manager, the juniors report to seniors and the manager. So we have very easygoing hierarchy. So we all know what to do. We all know who we are working with. So you can trust us. Every one of us representing a business line. So that's how we grow our partnership. So with that said, and you can contact any one of us and book video appointment with us. So last but not the least, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you know that you can email Catherine at communitycpa.com because she is the one and regulating what I talk about each time, or other people. We have 4 videos come out each week, right? So 2 are foreign language ones is Hispanic, Spanish, and also Chinese. Then I do Saturday and Tuesday, this time 3 p.m. to English. So that way we're actually translating what we talk about here and to other languages for other people to use. So you can tell Catherine what you like to hear, then we can go to produce that. And you can call our number, 515-288-3188. It is 30 years old number, and it is our main number. And you call, and someone will come to pick up your phone, especially if you call Monday to Saturday, and you will get a real person online to talk to you. So our office open Monday to Saturday, like I told you before. Of course, we have offices in California. Now we have another office in Canada, so the time zone is a little different, but we go with Central Standard Time. So it doesn't matter where we locate, and we are going for 8:30 to 5:30 Central Standard Time. Iowa is the heart of the country, so we're rooted here. All right, I will talk to you again, and thank you for being with me, and I will see you on Saturday.